Hi, it's David with Oklahoma Ham Radio, the YouTube channel. The website was taken down just simply because it wasn't getting that many hits. I have moved. I moved about 3/4 of a mile from the old location, and I moved into a new location that has very strict HOA requirements. Flat out, you can't have any antennas in your yard at all, or on the house, or whatever. So this video is talking about my plans to get back on the air. Stick around. If you don't mind, do those YouTube things, like, subscribe. I would appreciate it. What I'm looking at for the backyard. So, not a lot of room back there. The room that I have, I really want to use for a pool, ultimately right down here. So I don't want to put an antenna up back there. That little piece behind the fence back there, back in here, is also mine, but that butts right up against neighbors, property and things like that. So anyway, just want to give a view of what I got here from the backyard also. So I'm standing by the back fence here on top of some rocks that make up a fire pit, but this does drop off pretty substantially down to a creek, and getting down in there to do anything looks to be quite challenging. There are a lot of trees that have been knocked over previously from a nice storm that we had here. It was pretty bad for about a week, so took down a bunch of those trees, and as you can see, that creek goes way up that way, and well, way back and turns. But I just want to show you that even doing anything back here, this is probably I don't know, 15-foot drop off, and just getting down there to do anything looks challenging at best. So this is a split level house. It does have 2 floors, so let me go get the key so I can show you what I'm thinking. So I'm climbing upstairs now, and over in this little bonus room, there is this door which leads out to the attic. So let's show you that. It does have a lock on it to prevent the grandkids from getting in the attic. And there's a lot of stuff back here that I need to clean out, but let's see if we can see this. So this is the door just inside of the attic. This goes up to a pretty good peak up here. It's about 10 foot above where I'm standing. That up there is probably 15 foot roughly. And it does go over to that section of the attic. So it goes from here up to here and over to here. There is this window here that has some cobwebs on it. This is I believe it's a metal frame window. Let me see. Oh, no, that's a nylon, feels like a nylon window up here. So the rest of them are all metal frame. So this section of the attic that I'm in, if we go up here, you'll see that attic goes back. I'll show you where that goes. Also, over here, you'll start seeing that we get into, the ductwork and things like that goes back. And all that, I think, goes downstairs, but show you the other part of the attic. Potentially, we'll see. So if I leave out of this bonus room and come back over to this bedroom, which is set up for my grandchildren, who come over occasionally. They're not here a lot, but there is this closet This closet has power right there and power over here underneath the alarm system. But there is access to the attic through this doorway. And I'm not going to climb up through that doorway right now, but up here is where the heating and air conditioning, the heating unit is above that, through that little entryway, which does go back and connect back through here, through the attic over to that attic. So that's the wall that goes up to the top of that attic. It carries over and is in fact accessible from this part of the attic. So I'm thinking about setting up a small shack in here. It's already got shelves that I can use and things like that. It is, not an eyesore for the rest of the family. And going up through here for cables, for antenna cable. I do want to show you one more access to attic that I have, which is through here, which doesn't really connect very well to the other parts of the attic. I'm sure I can make something work, but this is where we're storing Christmas decorations. But this is just a bonus room, or an extra bedroom for when people come stay with us. So I'm out in my garage right now. I've been working slowly on getting the garage set up. The funny thing is, my projects are always the least important. So, I've got my 3D printers set up over here. I am using, it's kind of a mess back here right now, but I am using Raspberry Pi 4 to run OctoPi or Octoprint. Got a lot of stuff out here I still need to clean up, but this is my work area when I finish getting it cleaned up here. But yesterday I did spend some time looking at various things and what I could do with for an antenna, and had some ideas and some thoughts. So I've thought of a couple different things. I could do like a fan dipole upstairs in the attic, and that may work okay. I don't know if I'm going to get high enough to be able to do things like 40 and above. You're supposed to be pretty high off the ground with one of those. Maybe it would work for a invis type setup, but I don't think it's going to give me the same results or similar results to what I was getting with the last QTH and the vertical that I had up. So I started doing some research, looking around at what's possible, what others have done, and I looked at some of the magnetic loops that are available, specifically the small magnetic loops that are about 3 foot in diameter. And, I found the one from MFJ and it looked okay. It's got a lot of reviews that are, good, bad, ugly, right? It just seems like the quality control at MFJ for that antenna seems to be a common persistent issue. So I looked at some others that were, $2,000+ for the antenna, and they had great reviews, and they were, I think, Ciro, C-I-R-O, I think was a manufacturer of those out of France. So I started looking at these and said, I've got a lot of stuff from days of working with robotics that I still have. And I'm thinking about building a magnetic loop. Not for sure what the diameter of the magnetic loop is going to be. It may be about 5 foot, a little over 5 foot. in diameter. I have the rotator. In fact, let me walk around and I'll show you some of the stuff that I currently have that could be used to try to automate these magnetic loops as much as possible. So over here I have the rotator, the AC rotator. I could leverage that to rotate the magnetic loop. There's my grounding rod that I need to get put in somewhere, but there's the rotator. I also have, other than a mess out here, I also have, I'll use this one, these little control boards. A friend of mine makes these. They're used for robotics, but it's basically kind of like an Arduino, just on steroids. This is what one looks like internally. These are digital pins that can send out pulse width modulation. These are analog pins for reading sensors. These are, can't remember the terminology for it, but anyway, these run off of a Wi-Fi connection that connects back to your computer. And then you can control all the devices that you plug into these from the computer over Wi-Fi. If you want to, you can also use this port, which is normally reserved for a camera, as a network connection right here. So you can have it hardwired in, or you can use it wirelessly. I also have, Arduinos laying around. I have these Pi Zeros. I've got Raspberry Pis in cases, and outside of cases, and this is another Pi Zero. But I've got a ton of ways to control motors. These, we'll take this, and actually we'll take this one as a good example. I've got a ton of these guys. These are motor drivers for driving 12-volt motors. That one's got a bent pin, but they do have heat sinks on them. And this little device allows you to read, well, could be stop switches, could be encoders, could be potentiometers, so on and so forth, to control the motors that are plugged in over here. I think this will drive two 12-volt motors. And I've got many of those setting up in this area for various things. I've also got these, converters. These takes in 12 volts to 24 volts, converts it to 6 volts. Some of these others go to 5 volts. These are not digitally switched, so they should induce less noise, right? I do have some that are I don't see one up here, but I know I've got them that do the digital switching. These are just some more little Android boards and such that I have. I've got a ton of servos, various other things, but these are some motors. They're actually, they're 12-volt motors, just DC. They do have the, I forget the term for it. They do have the counters on the back to tell how many clicks or the location of a motor, kind of through some logic. I've actually got 3 of those, which these, you just take the wheel off of, and now you've got a nice sized DC motor. They are 12 volt. They're from Globe Motors. There's the model. Oops, let me get the model number there. There's the model number. They're kind of hard to come by. The reason that they're so hard to come by is these sensors on the back measure, I think, 65,000 clicks per rotation. So you can get very accurate on the the location of those. I do have, stepper motors, mini stepper motors, but I also have these, got 3 of these also. These are, the linear motors, basically linear actuators. These have a 2-inch throw, meaning that this piece of it slides in or out 2 inches. So I've got 3 of these also. I've tested them all, made sure that they all worked. And there's some other things, LiDARs and various other things. But I do have many of these guys. I only really need 1, but I've got a lot of these guys. So in the research that I've done with magnetic loops, it looks like I could change the shape of the, what do they call it? Basically the small loop. And that can affect SWR and so on and so forth. I can change the angle of the small loop and leave the big loop where it is, and that too can impact various things. So that's intriguing to me. I want to have some, remote way of controlling that. I think the linear actuator and potentially a stepper motor or some small, basically build a small rotator to rotate that small loop. The other thing that I want to be able to do, you've got to tune the variable capacitor in those magnetic loops. And I'll show you the variable capacitor that I got or I ordered. It's not here yet. But it's a tube capacitor out of Russia, and I'm waiting for it to get here. That's the most expensive part of the antenna for me, since I already have the rest of this stuff for sure. One of these motors could be used to turn that capacitor very easily, or maybe potentially a stepper motor. Stepper motors require a lot more logic to be used to be able to drive them, but in any event, there's multiple options there. So the linear actuator could be used to smash or release that small loop. These motors could be used to tune that variable capacitor, and I can drive all of that off of this little guy and one of these. So I've got plenty. If I fry something, there's a stockpile of these things here. Along with that, the Pi Zero can be used, the Raspberry Pi, the Arduinos, whatever. I've got many different options there. I've also got a lot of these little, basically limit switches that I could use really directly from this, that could be used to tell, hey, stop turning this motor because you've reached the extent of that variable capacitor in either direction. Got some threaded rod that I could use there. I've also got these, 3D printer parts that I could use and throw some bearings on, so that, as I slide that, as I use this motor to tune the variable capacitor, I could have something that slides along here on a threaded rod that then hits a limit switch and tells everything, hey, you're at the extent that you need to go. Some of that could also be done directly off of these motor drivers because of this component. So there's a lot of things. So I've got the rotator. I can control that from the control box for the Yaesu. I've got the devices that I need to wirelessly control motors, and I've got the devices that I need to control the motors, and I've got plenty of motors. So to me, it doesn't make any sense not to try to build one of these as opposed to buy it and basically repurchase the controllers, the motors, and all that good stuff. So I think the next series of videos is going to be me building out this antenna, problems I've faced, problems I've seen, things that could be addressed in certain ways, and so on and so forth. So come along with me as I build this magnetic loop, and hopefully I learn some things, you learn some things, and hopefully you enjoy all the videos in this series as I post them. This will be a long project, but also remember to like and subscribe and click that little bell so you know when I post those videos. Have a great day.